how did we get here? And more importantly, how do we get out? How did we end up with the president that we have and the current political climate that we have? And some will say it's the natural evolution of the Tea Party from 2009 and then the 2010 elections. But some will say that the Tea Party was a backlash to the election of Barack Obama, which was a backlash to George W. Bush and his policies, which was a backlash to Clinton. And these backlashes just go on and on. But I don't think any of those are how we got here. How we got here goes back to Ronald Reagan. Toward the end of his administration, Ronald Reagan ended a policy known as the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine dictated that media outlets, if they showed a political editorial that was a biased political editorial on radio, television, whatever, they had to give the opposing side equal time. So it was fairness. Or, they'd have a program later on in the day that gave that equal time as well. And Ronald Reagan ended that. And what that gave birth to was Rush Limbaugh's radio show. And Rush Limbaugh, I can't really listen to him because he has a problem with completing sentences, but he was popular, and he put on a show that people listened to, and he was able to sell advertisements on. And other radio stations, since they didn't have to have opposing political viewpoints, said, well, let's get us one of those guys, and a whole bunch of Rush Limbaugh clones popped up. And then in the 90s, a cable network popped up that gave a whole bunch of these Rush Limbaugh clones their own TV shows on Fox News. And this dominates the political discourse. And our side, the Democratic side, the liberal side, we did not do a good job of keeping up with that. We tried with the Air America network, but we didn't get the high juice hosts that the other side had, given the head start that they had. We had some very entertaining hosts on Air America, but the most notable was Rachel Maddow. She took that, and now she's got her own cable show on MSNBC. But the divisiveness that came from political talk radio just seeped into our politics, and pretty soon politicians had to do what these radio hosts were saying to keep their constituents happy, because the people who were voting were the ones who were listening to those shows. That led us to having our current president, Donald Trump. I believe that happened directly. So I think that's how we got here. Now, how do we get out? I'm not one of those people who are going to say that Robert Mueller is going to take care of it. I am sure that Robert Mueller is going to do his job. He's going to have a thorough investigation if Congress lets him finish it, if the president lets him finish it. But honestly, Robert Mueller could come up with conclusive proof that the president gave the nuclear launch codes to Vladimir Putin for free, and the Republican Congress wouldn't do anything about it. They last Friday released a memo that was full of news that was already reported, but they typed it up as, oh, this is this huge scandal, and that's not what it was. My favorite thing from the memo were the Yo Memo jokes that were trending on Twitter. I'm going to steal one. Yo Memo bombed so bad, Hawaii sent out an alert. But anyway, so the memo was kind of a flop, but they're going to keep trying to derail the investigation, discredit the investigation, and somebody please tell me how the law and order president, as he says he is, and the law and order party, as they say they are now trying to discredit the FBI. Anyway, so no matter what the Mueller investigation comes down to, if you're holding out hope that the Republican Congress is going to do anything about it, like maybe impeachment or something like that, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to. And so what's going to result of that? If the American people want it, they'll vote that Congress out. And then then a Democratic Congress comes in, and they go ahead and impeach. And if the end result of the impeachment is if the impeachment process is a guilty verdict resulting in removal from office, you know what's going to happen? Donald Trump will be held up as a martyr. As he took one for the team, and it was handled unfairly. There are conservatives out there that still think Nixon got a raw deal. Ronald Reagan is venerated as almost a saint among conservatives and Republicans, and yet they're not going to tell you how close he came to impeachment over Iran-Contra. That's not going to come up. I got a lot of other problems with Reagan's policies, but they're not going to tell you that. If Trump gets impeached, it'll give them a black eye for a couple of years, but they'll roar back stronger, and they won't change. In fact, they'll get even further to the right. Every election cycle, lately especially, the Republican Party is getting further and further and further to the right. And with the current president, they're not even trying to go to govern from the middle anymore. Which is what a president's supposed to do. It's president of the whole country, not only the people who voted for him. But anyway, I digress. How do we get out? Don't impeach. And my liberal friends are going to take that as, oh no. You want to know how to really get rid of this president and maybe stop the Republican Party from its extreme right drift? Make them lose. Make them lose big. The midterm elections are coming up in 2018. We're less than a month away from the primary elections here in Texas, and we've got a lot of Democratic candidates running this time. And if you want to really send a message to the Republican Party that they're going down the wrong path, make them lose. Primary elections usually have terrible voter turnout, so get out and vote in your primary for once. Get out and do it. Midterm elections do not have the turnout that general elections for a president do. Change that. Get out and vote. Have election turnout this fall and November of 2018 rival the presidential election of 2016. Alabama did it for a special election back in December, and they elected a Democrat, which was unheard of. There could be a huge Democratic wave this time around in 2018 if people get out and actually vote. So do that. And then what we'll get a Congress that they don't need to impeach him. Because if you impeach Donald Trump, you get Mike Pence as president. You don't get a Democrat. And Mike Pence will still have the same far-right ideology, but he'll be better at the governing part. That's the one saving grace that we have. As much as I don't like Trump's policies, at least he's incompetent enough to not implement them. So make him lose. Give an opposition party that can have veto-proof majorities, that can pass legislation that he can veto all he wants and they can override the veto. Do that. And you know what? He'll probably resign because he's not getting his way. He'll throw a tantrum. And that's what'll happen. But if he stays in until the 2020 presidential election and gets absolutely trounced, you know he hates losing. And if the Republican Party gets trounced in 2018 and trounced again in 2020, maybe they'll get the message that this man was not an acceptable candidate for president. This man was not an acceptable person to be in the Oval Office, and his policies are not acceptable to the majority of the American voters. Make them lose. Get out and vote. Get out and get active. Get involved with your local party. Especially if you're in a rural red state like I am, get involved. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this vlog, to prove that even in rural Texas, that Democrats exist. I am not the only one. Yes, by my subscriber count, it looks like I am. Subscribe if you like my channel. Show people that we're not alone. At least show me that we're not alone. So this is Liberal Texas Biker signing off. Get out, get involved, lean left. It's all good in the neighborhood. See you next week.